The interstellar ship Avalon is traveling through deep space toward a distant colony world known as Homestead 2. The passenger areas are empty, and the vessel runs on autopilot. Inside, 258 crew members and 5,000 passengers lie in hibernation. Without warning, the ship drifts into an asteroid field that begins to weaken its shields. Power is rerouted to the main barrier, but Avalon is on a direct path toward a massive asteroid. The rock slams into the ship, causing multiple system faults. As the vessel initiates automatic repairs, one of the hibernation pods suddenly powers on. Inside is Jim Preston, a mechanical engineer. The pod opens, and an automated system assists his revival, informing him that he has spent 120 years in suspended sleep and that they're only 4 months away from Homestead 2. He's told to enjoy the luxury of the ship during the remaining journey. Jim learns how to use his ID band, finds his cabin, and is introduced to the planned activities before arrival. Eager but nervous to meet others, he gets ready, leaves his room, and steps into an automated orientation class meant for a full group. He looks uneasy as the hologram talks about Earth being crowded, expensive, and overrated. It tells him to save his questions until the end, but Jim keeps interrupting to ask why he's alone. When he realizes it can't answer, he leaves to search for others. He reaches the main concourse, but finds no one. An automated help desk offers assistance, so he requests to speak with a real person. It directs him to a steward, but when he arrives, no one is there either. He then asks for the captain, but on reaching the bridge, where he's denied entry, he notices the crew is still in hibernation. Jim heads to the observatory and learns that the ship is actually 90 years away from its destination. Realizing he woke up far too early, he rushes back to the concourse and sends a message to Earth, asking for help since he doesn't know how to return to stasis. The system tells him the costly transmission would take 55 years to receive a reply. Crushed, Jim wanders the ship until he finds the bar and spots another person. But when the man moves, something seems off. As he's handed a drink, Jim realizes the bartender is an android named Arthur. Jim tries to explain his situation to him, but the android can't grasp how this could happen. The next day, Jim visits the cafeteria and quickly notices that most menu items are reserved for gold-class passengers. He settles for plain coffee and starts planning to repair his hibernation pod. After gathering tools, he manages to power it up and lies inside, but nothing happens. He then attempts to access the crew's pods, but that fails too. Minor glitches start appearing around the ship. Jim keeps returning to the bar, not just to drink, but to talk to Arthur. The android suggests he explore the ship's gold-class perks. Jim breaks into one of the upscale rooms and indulges in the restaurants, games, and entertainment. However, the loneliness only deepens over time. One day, drunk, he wanders through the hibernation bay and finds an airlock stocked with spacesuits. He suits up, enters the airlock, opens the door, and steps into open space. The sight leaves him awestruck. He's the only conscious human experiencing this view. He disengages the magnets on his boots and floats freely, feeling utterly desolate. Returning inside, he removes the suit but walks back to the airlock without it, ready to end his life. At the last moment, he changes his mind, runs back in, and slips on a bottle. Standing up, he notices a woman in one of the pods, Aurora. He searches her file and listens to her recorded interview, quickly becoming captivated. Later, he sits beside her pod, still listening. Back at the bar, he reads her work and discusses it with Arthur. Jim becomes fixated on the cruel irony. He left Earth for a better life, woke too early, and met the perfect woman, only for her to be unreachable. He considers waking her, but knows it would mean trapping her on the ship to die with him. At first, he refuses, but as time passes, the temptation grows until he finally gives in. He opens her pod, reviving her, then hides and returns to his cabin. Not long after, he finds her wandering the concourse, confused just as he was a year before. Jim tells her they're the only ones awake and takes her to the observatory. He explains he can't reach the crew or access the ship's main controls. Aurora panics and tries to return her pod. When they arrive, Jim explains that the ship has no special equipment to put them back into hibernation, essentially telling her they're trapped. Back at the concourse, he advises her to rest since she's just woken up from hibernation. She feels sympathy for him, knowing he spent over a year alone. Jim returns to the bar, filled with regret for his actions. He asks Arthur not to reveal to Aurora that he was the one who woke her. The next day, Aurora wakes and visits the concourse, asking the automated info desk about the hibernation pods. Jim joins her, and they head to breakfast. As they leave, the info desk glitches. In the cantina, Aurora realizes Jim has eaten the same meal for more than a year and gets him a gold-class menu. They discuss repairing the pods, but while Jim is resigned, Aurora refuses to give up. She searches the infirmary, studies research files, and eventually tries to break into the crew's hibernation quarters. Meanwhile, Jim notices more malfunctions across the ship. Aurora spends her days writing, jogging, and swimming, becoming more aware of her isolation. She interviews Jim in the cantina, curious about his story. He starts with company slogans, but eventually admits he wants a fresh start on the new world where he can build a meaningful life. Later, in the observatory, Aurora reveals her own plan. She has a round-trip ticket to Homestead 2, intending to live there for a year and return to Earth as the first journalist to document such a journey. Gradually, Aurora stops pursuing ways to fix their situation, and Jim finds ways to lift her spirits, taking her dancing, to the cinema, the basketball court, and finally to meet Arthur at the bar. She enjoys the distraction, but soon remembers their predicament, leaving Jim alone with the android, burdened by guilt. He later surprises her with a miniature Chrysler building he crafted for her. Sometime later, they share a dinner date at the bar. Aurora tells him her father died when she was a teenager. Afterward, Jim takes her to the airlock, and together they suit up for a spacewalk. For the first time, Jim has someone to share the breathtaking experience with. He disables the magnetic boots, letting them float freely in space. Back inside, they kiss, go to his cabin, and sleep together. Soon they live as a couple, sharing meals, jogging, sleeping together, and writing about their lives. Jim discovers the hydroponics bay and brings Aurora flowers. One day, they watch a red giant pass by from the observatory. That night, they celebrate her birthday at a restaurant and then at the bar. While she chats with Arthur, Jim prepares a ring for her. The android, unaware of the secret, tells Aurora Jim woke her intentionally. When Jim returns, she confronts him in shock and fury before running away. Jim later finds her belongings gone from his cabin. The next day, he approaches her in the cantina, but she flees. Her anger turns violent when she visits his cabin one night, attacking him. Jim tries apologizing over the comms, confessing he fell in love with her, but she refuses to forgive him for taking her life away. One night, Jim experiences another ship malfunction as the main command shuts down. The elevator breaks down, and Aurora later finds a tree he planted in the concourse. In the cantina, the food dispenser fails. Suddenly, a voice comes over the comms. It's the deck chief, Gus Mancuso, asking about the tree. They meet him in the concourse and explain their situation. Mancuso is baffled by 3 pod failures and takes them to the bridge, where he discovers a larger problem requiring a manual check of the systems. After leaving the bridge, a robot nearly falls on them. Mancuso explains such malfunctions shouldn't be happening and shows them how to collect diagnostic data. He later inspects the pods with Jim, learning the truth about Aurora's wake-up. Mancuso is disturbed but can do nothing to change it. Jim then brings him the 16th broken robot. Mancuso feels ill and leaves, coughing blood. That night, Aurora can't sleep and goes swimming. Suddenly, gravity fails and the pool water engulfs her. When the gravity drive resets, she narrowly escapes drowning. She and Jim rush to find Mancuso, meeting at the bridge to piece together the cause. Mancuso concludes a major system failure occurred 2 years earlier, forcing the ship's systems to compensate. If they don't repair it, the ship will be lost. While searching for the problem, Mancuso collapses, and Jim and Aurora rush him to the infirmary. He's dying, and there's no treatment that can stop it or extend his remaining time. Later, the 3 meet in the observatory, where Mancuso hands Jim his ID bracelet, urges them to repair the ship, and then passes away. Suddenly, the lights switch to a warning red and the ship begins to shake. Jim tells Aurora he needs her help, and they rush toward engineering, only to face another malfunction in the gravity drive, quickly followed by another that also affects Arthur. Jim shuts him down. They finally reach engineering and begin searching for the issue. They trace it to the power plant, and when they open the hatch, Aurora is pulled inside. An asteroid has breached the hull in that section. Jim is also pulled toward it, but manages to cling to the hatch as it closes on him. Eventually, he's pulled through as well, but they manage to seal the breach just in time. Right after fixing it, Jim realizes there's more than one breach. They follow the meteor's path and discover it damaged the reactor control computer. Jim believes he can find replacement parts. They locate the part and replace it, but venting the reactor still fails. They attempt it manually, yet it fails again. Jim concludes he'll have to open the vent door from outside the ship to cool the reactor. They head to the airlock, and before stepping out, Jim gives Aurora the Mancuso's bracelet, admitting he might not make it back. She helps him into the suit, and as he enters the airlock, she pleads with him to return because she can't live there without him. Aurora goes to the reactor, where the temperature has reached dangerous levels. A bolt from the reactor strikes her arm while Jim approaches the vent outside and spots the door. The reactor room heats further as he works to bypass the vent lock. He realizes he must physically hold the vent open to let the reactor release heat, and he informs Aurora. She hates the idea, but he insists, telling her to vent the reactor. She refuses at first, not wanting him to die, but he reminds her they must save the others. She vents the reactor, and it works, but the force of the released fumes pushes Jim away and snaps his tether. The pressure in his suit starts to drop. He tells Aurora what happened, and she rushes to get another suit so she can bring him in. He apologizes again. She suits up and flies toward him, but her tether is too short, pulling her back until she grabs his tether and hauls him in. Aurora drags Jim to the infirmary, only to find he's already dead. She uses Mancuso's bracelet to override the medical protocols and attempts to revive him. The pod works automatically and brings him back. Aurora forgives him. Later, she repairs Arthur, and together they give Mancuso a proper burial in space. Jim brings her to the infirmary and reveals a way to convert the medical pod into a hibernation pod. He tells her she can use it to sleep until the end of the trip. However, it's later shown she chooses to stay awake with him. Jim eventually proposes, and they spend their lives together aboard the ship. 88 years later, the Avalon arrives at Homestead 2. The crew wakes to find the ship in a completely unexpected state. Aurora has left them a message recounting the life she and Jim shared while everyone else was in hibernation.